So whenever we are talking about, so anyone has any query in this? We have discussed till the constructor, right? So now the next part, what we are going to discuss about is, first we will talk about the wrapper classes. Then we will talk about boxing, unboxing, auto boxing, and auto unboxing. Okay, fine. Why they have kept it in this way? Fine. So it should be and auto unboxing, right? So these are the things which we are going to discuss, and then we will start the discussion about arrays and the access specifiers. Only access specifiers are there, or just the specifiers are there? What is that? Access and non-access modifiers. Okay. Access, non-access. Okay. So first of all, what are the wrapper classes? Anybody knows what are the wrapper classes?
Yes, ma'am. We convert the primitive data type into an object, which help Java to follow object-oriented concept.
Okay. Okay. Now, as we all know, Java is strongly typed. Now, what do you mean by strongly typed programming language? Meaning that when you are creating or whenever you are declaring a variable of a specific data type, then in that case, that variable can hold only that type of data. Okay. So if I am declaring a variable of type int, so it will by default hold only int type of data. If it is float, it will hold the float type of data, right? However, typecasting is also possible. Typecasting is nothing but whenever one type of data is available and that needs to be stored in another type of variable. That is what? That is typecasting, right? So let's see how we are going to do it. So typecast demo. Yes. So I will create main method over here only because I don't want to represent any entity as such. I'm just demonstrating the working. So when I have int var, yes. So in this int var, definitely I can store the value, say for example 10. So this is the integer variable, right? Now if I want to store some different value, yes, or suppose say I have long var equal to say 20, and I'm going to attach L over here, either the lowercase or uppercase L, to specify that this particular variable or data should be treated as long and it should be stored in 8 bytes of memory. Right? Now these two are compatible with each other. Fine. So what we can do or what we can have is long var equal to int var. So whatever value we have in this int variable, that can easily be stored in this long variable. We can have this particular data conversion. Now this is data conversion, which is termed as a typecasting. What is typecasting? When one type of data is getting stored in another type of variable, then it is typecasting, right? So this is what we have over here. So int type of data getting stored in long type of variable, This is possible. This is termed as implicit casting. Okay, so this is implicit. No any effort needs to be taken by us. However, if I will do int var is equal to 100L, where L, as I have attached L, that means this 100 value is a long value. So now what happens over here? As this int var is of type int, 4 bytes of memory is required. And whenever it is long variable or this particular value is long, then in that case, this requires 8 bytes. Now, first question comes in my mind that whether it is possible. Any casting means whenever we are going to store one type of data in another type of variable, you first need to check that whether it is possible. When it is possible, when those two data members are compatible with each other. So first check is compatibility check. So whether they are compatible with each other. So the answer to this question right now is yes. Because int is also integral data member, long is also integral data member. So compatibility is is correct. Then what is missing? What is missing over here is this long variable will require 8 bytes of memory. However, the int variable will have only 4 bytes of memory. So the data, which is right now in 8 bytes, should be stored in 4 bytes. This is possible, right? But for that, what we need to do is we need to make use of typecast operator, and that this typecast operator is nothing but this round bracket, and in this we are going to specify type of the variable. So what will be done in this case? This 100, which is currently a long value, that will be converted into int data type, and then it will be stored. This is termed as
explicit typecasting.
Explicit typecasting, right? This is explicit casting. So explicit casting, because again, why it is casting? Because one type of data is getting stored in another type of variable. So it is casting. This is first thing. Second thing is what? Whenever we are storing this particular data, a conversion should happen. So we have used typecast operator. This round bracket is nothing but typecast operator, which is used for specifying the data type in which the data should be converted. This is also one check which we have. And that is not implicit. That is not happening by default like it is done in line number 9. Yes. So this is called as explicit typecast. Clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Fine. So this happens now. Suppose I have string data. Yes. So I have string str is equal to hello. And now I want to store this data in int var2 equal to str. Obviously, this is not possible, even though we are providing the conversion of explicit. This explicit typecasting is also not available. The reason is string and int are not compatible with each other. So there is no compatibility match, right? So this is definitely not possible. So typecasting is done at primitive data members level also it is done. However, that will be done implicitly or explicitly based on their compatibility. Yes. So this will be done only if they are compatible. Now int requires less bytes of memory, long requires more. So long requires 8 bytes of memory. So long can accommodate byte, short, int, and long. Because long requires 8 bytes of memory. Byte requires 1 byte. Short requires 2 bytes. Int requires 4 bytes. So that data can easily be accommodated in long data member. However, whenever it is opposite, long to be stored in int or long to be stored in byte, long to be stored in short, in that case, you will have to do it explicit as explicit conversion. Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So again, float and double, same thing is applicable. Now, in case of int and float, right? So suppose I have float var equal to int var. So I have declared one float variable and I'm storing int variable. Int var is 10 at line number 5, you can see. So float can easily accommodate int variable. Why? Because float also requires 4 bytes of memory and int also requires 4 bytes of memory. Yes, let's now see how int var is displayed or how int var is represented. So whenever I'm executing this particular code, see 100 is the 100 kaise ho gaya? This 100 we have stored over here. Fine. So this 100 is stored in this way in the int variable. However, this decimal point as 0.0 is added over here because this is the float representation with the decimal point. Yes. Now suppose I want to declare var2 equal to float var. Now, whenever we are doing this, again, it is a implicit casting. I don't need any efforts over here, right? However, whenever we are trying to store this float value into int, it is giving me compilation error. That means here it is not doing it by the implicit way. So what needs to be done here?
Explicitly type float to int.
By using a float in a box.
Correct. Why? But they are compatible. Na? Float also requires 4 bytes of memory.
Because it is a static value of 0.0, no? It can be directly impacted in the int.
Correct. So actually float is represented with decimal point. Int cannot hold the decimal point data, isn't it? So here I need to compromise onto data loss actually. So whenever I am performing this particular operation of conversion, I need to make sure that when this conversion is happening, right, I am ready to lose onto this much data, that 0.0 and all, that I am okay to lose onto that particular data. Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
But for that, we will have to convert it into int. Just a minute, guys. नहीं. हाँ. Okay, is this clear, everyone? So whenever we are going to print this, so you can see that this data. So if I have some different data available over here, so note where is equal to 123.4567, something like this. Yes, and I'm assigning that value. Then you can see that this much data is now lost because int cannot hold the decimal value. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have small doubt. So
Yeah.
does the compiler has knowledge of taking if it is above to 123.5, will it convert into 124 or just
No.
the data will be lost?
Data will be lost. See now,
Okay,
it has
still
kept 1, 2, 3 only, no?
yes. So
Has not
yeah,
changed it. Even if you have this first decimal point,
S9,
uh,
just give it S9.
what happens? It is still keeping this because
Yeah.
the conversion doesn't happen. Because
Okay.
generally, whenever you have any value close to 124, we generally do round off.
Yes.
But Java compiler won't do it for us.
Okay.
For that, we have a different class, the math class, which will do all these mathematical, right? By default, it will not be.
Thank you.
Yes, anyone else has any query?
Ma'am, for example, for
Your voice is not audible. I mean, it's very low. Hello.
ma'am, is it okay now? Is my voice is audible now?
Yes.
Ma'am, for integer type variable, if I store character data, ma'am, for example, int var2 is equal to if I store c, ma'am, will it throw an error? Okay.
Yes, you will have to convert it explicitly. No, because whenever you are storing any character variable, okay, how this char variable is represented? It is represented in this way. In int, you are not going to make use of single inverted comma. Okay, so so whenever we are doing this, that conversion has to happen explicitly. Okay, so whenever I need to store, say, int new var equal to char equal to. So first of all, this conversion will be done. This implicit conversion will be done. Not like this. You cannot put this particular value over here. If you will see, if you will write this, okay, here also it is taking because of auto box.
Ma'am, I ask you value, no?
Because
ASCII value.
internally what happens, character is stored in the form of int only, right?
ASCII.
Character is ASCII value, correct, and it is in the form of int. So that so this is going to work over here, but only if you are having this character. String and all will not be stored. Okay, so suppose I want to store char var equal to 10. Now it is also storing, because what it will do now, so internally, let's see what is the out chat.
Ma'am, it will be 10 itself, no?
Okay, so this is how it is going to print. This is not going to print this value, char var it is not printing. The last value it will not print. Here, this char variable is going to be in the form of character only. Yes, and here it will print the, when I'm specifying that char var equal to 10, so it is going to provide me the ASCII value, but in this case, we will have to convert.
1 to 3, why it's printing? It's not ASCII value. ASCII value is 67.
No, 1, 2, 3 is over here. This is the output of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have learned somewhere that character can store both in integer
So
and
C,
like a character.
now it has printed C 67 and now it has printed 10. Char var as 10 in the form of int. 10 may not be the ASCII value that is available, right? So it is not able to convert it. Got it? Or no?
Yes.
So this is the value of char var. This is int new C, right? So this is ASCII value that of 67 you have. Suppose I have 84 over here, I guess that is capital T. This is, so whenever it finds the ASCII value, it will print it. So 84, when number I'm specifying, it will pick the ASCII value for it, and that ASCII value will be printed. Clear, everyone, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I think Java doesn't follow ASCII, it follows Unicode.
Java doesn't follow?
Unicode, ma'am. Universal code.
Yeah, Java
Ah,
follow Unicode.
But these character values will be picked as ASCII value only.
No, ma'am, it's Unicode, ma'am, because Java supports Unicode because Unicode has a huge number of conversions from other characters to.
For
Yes,
that,
Unicode, I agree, but whenever it comes about the data from that is referred by ASCII value only.
yes,
Unicode
ma'am.
is for character.
Unicode, there is a different representation technique. / you have to put, otherwise you take ASCII.
Yes. So Unicode representation is only for character because it takes the 2 bytes of memory for character data. In other programming languages, we don't make use of 2 bytes of memory for character data.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Here we have 2 different data types, no, character as well as string, which is representing that particular data, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So this data type is clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Any queries? Okay. Now try to convert string. Yes, any queries, guys, or no?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Fine. So now we will talk about how or what is the need of wrapper classes, right? Now we have seen that the typecasting is done with the compatible data types. Fine. So primitive to primitive, definitely reference to reference with the compatible data types, it will happen. But now when it comes about, you need to have a typecasting from primitive data type to reference data type. Now why it is required? Whenever there are certain concepts like collection to be utilized in Java application, collections cannot deal with primitive data types. Okay. In usage of collection, or whenever you are going to make use of collections, data must be present in the form of object. So whatever primitive data type you have, that must be represented in the form of an object only. So now whenever we need to do this, whenever we need to represent the primitive in the form of object, in object is nothing but reference data type. So again, we are converting primitive type of data into reference type of variable. So this is also a typecasting. So where primitive is converted into reference data, right? However, again, when we are performing this typecasting, again, compatibility matters. It is not like any type of primitive will be converted in any type of object. No. So when we have this int data type, we have a class named as integer. When we have long data type, there is a class named as long. Okay. So for byte, we have byte. Now look at the naming convention. Lowercase b is primitive, capital B is wrapper class for it. Then short, right? For float, we have float, floating float. Like this, for every primitive data type, we have its corresponding wrapper class. Now, where will you get this information? Where are these classes available? Who has defined these classes? So these classes are available by default, first thing. Okay, these classes are available by default. Now, for understanding this particular concept, you need to refer Java documentation. So how many of you are aware of Java documentation?
Yes, ma'am. I am.
So there is a Java documentation
Oracle.
provided with every version of Java, right? So how you are going to get it is, currently we are using Java 8. So search Java 8 API documentation. Then you will be able to see this particular web page where these are all predefined packages. Okay, these are all classes. Now what we are going to do, there are various packages, predefined packages, right? Okay, so this is java.lang package. Once you will select, this is a predefined package. Now, when we discussed about features of Java, so there we have seen that there are a lot of predefined packages available, right? So whenever we are using this particular package, right, this is available by default. These are all available packages. Java.lang is available by default. So once you select a package, you will get all the interfaces, classes, enums, exceptions, errors, annotations listed over here. Those belong to this particular package, right? Now here you can see that Boolean, byte, character, double, float, integer, long, after that short. These are all wrapper classes. Now wrapper class is not a predefined class individually. It is a concept, right? And all these classes which you can see over here, all these classes come under category as wrapper classes. So these classes are going to wrap the primitive and give us the object. So you can easily refer to any of this class. So once you will select any class, its description will be available over here. These are all methods. Now why we need, or why it should be like you should represent the data in the object. What operations you can perform with the primitive data members are very less. As compared to that, the class has got n number of predefined methods, and definitely you can enhance the functionality, enhance the operations that you can perform on a primitive data type. Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. So let's now see how to use these wrapper classes. So wrapper class. So suppose I have this int variable as 10. Yes. Now, when I need to convert it into a reference data type, I want to represent it in the form of an object. So integer int obj equal to new integer, and then I'm going to pass this value as int variable. It can take the actual value. Actually, these wrapper classes are now not available. It is deprecated and marked for removal. Okay. Why it is so? I will tell you why it is so. These constructors are now being removed from Java because of the concept of auto boxing, right? This is the concept where we are explicitly creating an object this concept is termed as boxing. Means I am explicitly putting a int data member into the integer object. So this is boxing. Now what we can do is integer, say int obj2 is equal to int var. Directly we can put the value and we don't need object of this particular integer class to be created. This is called as auto boxing. That's why now they have deprecated this particular constructor in the latest versions of Java. I guess in Java 11, these all wrapper class constructors are getting deprecated. 11 or 12. Somewhere in further versions, these constructors are now deprecated because this task is automatically being taken care of. Is this clear, everyone, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Ma'am, will you please explain it once more?
huh. Just a minute. So this was required till JDK 1.4. So right from JDK 1.5, this auto boxing concept was there. Boxing means what? It's like we gift wrap certain thing, right? So you have a gift, you put it in the box, you wrap it, and then you present it. So here what is done? You have a primitive data type, put it into an object, that is wrapper provided by the wrapper class, integer class, to your primitive data member. This is what we have. This process is termed as boxing. Okay, this
Okay.
process is termed as boxing. So till JDK 1.4, it was explicitly required to create this particular object. Now from JDK 1.5, what we have is the concept of auto boxing is introduced. So what is done in auto boxing is whatever we are explicitly doing by creating this object, now Java takes care of it. So internally it creates an object and puts the data. However, we don't need to specify it in our app, in our code. It is taken care of implicitly. Is this
Okay.
clear, everyone? So this concept is called as
So,
auto.
ma'am,
Yeah.
just we write int var is equals to 10. That's it, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes. Integer, not int. This is
Okay,
primitive
okay.
only. This is primitive only. When you are using integer, that means internally an object of integer class will be created, and whatever value you have, which is a primitive, it will be put into that.
Okay, so we don't need to use the new keyword to specify a new
Now
object.
this is not required. This particular statement is not required.
Okay, ma'am.
This was required till JDK 1.4. Now
Yes.
it is not required.
That's why that is a strikeout.
Yes, and actually till 8 minutes. In recent versions, I guess these wrapper class constructors, constructors. In which version? In 9 only. Java 9, these constructors are now deprecated and now they will be removed. Currently they are marked as deprecated. So they provide some time for the people to, make arrangements, make changes. So you can see all this information if you Google it. Right? See, The public constructors of following classes have been deprecated since SE 9, means Java SE 9, and should be deprecated for removal in anticipation of these classes becoming inline classes. Okay.
Ma'am,
Huh?
ma'am, what is the purpose of
What? What is the purpose of deprecation? Hmm? No. The purpose of deprecation is whenever something new is introduced and the previous elements are not required. Yes. So you can remove it when something is not required. It's like whenever you purchase any new item in your home, right? You remove something from the previous one, some junk like that. So the junk is removed. Okay.
Ma'am, what advantages do we get using this wrapper class, ma'am?
What do we get?
Yes, ma'am. Means why are we doing this one? Wrapping up.
See, in certain packages, where are the packages? Module, JDK, Java, just a minute. Java activation, Java base. Is it in Java base? Now this module thing is also added. Na? In modules, we have packages in Java 9. Fine. So here you can see it is marked as deprecated now. The constructors are deprecated. Okay. So is your question is like why we are doing this particular conversion? Is this your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So see, basically Java has two types of data, primitives and reference data type, right? So now in certain concepts of Java, like collection framework, in collection framework, whatever data you want to store, that data must be available in the form of an object, because collections cannot deal with primitive data members. So if you have a primitive data member, that must be represented in the form of an object. So how you will be able to do that? So Java provides you that facility in the form of wrapper classes. Got it?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, have you checked that your timesheets are approved? Today is the last day to get the timesheets approved for the month of November.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
not, ping your manager to approve. Otherwise, it will reflect into the salary reduction in next month. Yeah. So that's why we need to perform this particular operation. Okay. Now, whenever, so this is auto boxing. So suppose I have a primitive, suppose an int value I have, number. So what all operations I can do? Add, multiply, divide, subtract. Yes, these sort of operations we will be able to perform by using primitive data member. So now if I want to enhance certain functionality, definitely that primitive will be represented in the form of an object. Yes. And whenever we are implementing or whenever we are converting it in the form of an object, we can make use of various methods. Now, what all methods are available? If you go to this integer class, once it is converted into integer, right? This is Java 9 ka integer. These are all values that you can utilize, you can work with, right? So you are enhancing the functionality, or you are enhancing the operations to be done with that particular data, is one thing. But now whenever you need to get back the primitive value out of that particular object, so int new var okay, equal to int obj2 dot int value. This is the method, okay, which was required till JDK 1.4. This is called as unboxing. Means here, whatever value you have put, here, whatever value you have put, or maybe I will make use of int obj1 over here. Whatever value you have put into this int obj1, that you are getting back. So it is returning the primitive data. So here you are boxing it, here you are unboxing it. You are getting that value back. Is this clear, everyone? Now, whenever we are using unboxing, so internally int value method is invoked and the primitive is taken out and that will be available. So now what we need to do, we also have a concept of auto unboxing. And for that auto unboxing, now we don't need to invoke any method. You can directly assign that particular object and internally it will perform that method invocation, auto unboxing. Got it, everyone, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have these two concepts, or boxing and unboxing. Now these we will be using frequently in collection framework. What is collection framework? Obviously, we are going to discuss about it later on. But is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Conversion of primitive to object and object to primitive.
Yeah. So this is about boxing and unboxing, and that is applicable for all these primitive data members, because every primitive has got its corresponding wrapper class where the primitive can easily be represented in the form of an object. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is about the wrapper classes and typecasting, auto boxing and auto unboxing. Now we will be starting with the next topic, that is arrays. Before that, do you want to have a break or should we continue? Hello.
Ma'am, you just can have the breakfast, then you can continue. Is
10
it okay?
to 15 minutes. Okay, no issues. I'm always ready for taking breaks.
Yes, ma'am, 10 minutes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
With the next topic, that is arrays, right? So what is an array? Anybody knows? Anybody would like to share inputs?
It's like a container which contains similar kind of objects.
Same type of data.
Same type of data is being stored. Okay. So now whenever we are storing any data, definitely we go for declaring variables, right? So one variable can obviously store one value. If you have multiple values to be stored of same type, one approach is what? Whatever number of values you want to store, you can declare those many variables. Those will be independent variables. So what you need to do in that case is every variable has to be handled, has to be accessed independently. So what happens over here is accessing that particular data, maintaining that particular data really becomes a task, right? So in this case, what we can do is instead of declaring multiple variables independently, we can declare multiple variables together under one umbrella, under one entity, right? So that one entity is able to store multiple values at the same time. Obviously, all these values must be of same data type. That is a must. So when we need to store, multiple values of same data type. In that case, we are going to make use of an array. Now, array itself is a reference data type. Okay, so what is the data type of an array? Is reference data type, and it is going to store multiple values. So array is reference data type. Yes. So it is going to locate, or it is going to point to the location where values are being stored. This is how arrays are available to us, right? This is a reference data type. Now arrays can be created for primitives as well as reference data types. Means you can have arrays created for int, float, boolean, characters, right? Or chars. At the same time, you can also have the arrays created for objects like string object, integer object, float object, or even the custom objects that you have created like employee, person, like that. Okay. So array itself is a reference data member, but you can create an array of type primitive type. So the array which you are creating will hold primitive data member. And when you are creating an array of reference data type, so it is an array which is going to refer multiple variables of like objects. So it will be a reference array. So how to create it? Obviously, we will see how we are going to create it. Before that, let's understand what are the properties of array. So the properties, or we can say characteristics of an array. So first type is arrays are fixed length. Okay. So arrays are always fixed length. So whenever you are declaring any array, the array will be of fixed length. You cannot insert more elements than the length which you have specified, or you cannot remove, delete operation, insert operation. That cannot be performed on an array. Once you have created an array of a specific length, it will remain as it is. Right? After that, it is going to hold same data. So whatever data type you are specifying, only that type of values can be stored in array element. So this is also one more thing which we have over here. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it is going to hold same data type, right? How to declare a variable or array? So whenever you are declaring a simple data member, so suppose int marks or int mark, score. So it is going to hold one value. When you need to create an array, you are going to specify a square bracket, right? So this is the declaration of array, right? So here what I have done, I have declaration of variable. Here I have declared one variable. Here I have declared an array which can hold multiple elements. What type of elements? Int, right? After that, how we are going to initialize this data member? So say for example, score is equal to, say for example, 90. So this is the initialization of variable. Right? How we are going to initialize an array? Now in array, initialization is done at two levels. First is initialization of array and second is initialization of array elements. Okay. Right now we have just declared an array. Memory is not allocated for this particular array. Here, whenever we are declaring an array, a variable, as it is of type int, it automatically has 4 bytes of memory assigned to it. However, here it is just the declaration. Here, memory allocation is not yet done. So for that memory allocation, we are going to make use of new int. It is not integer, it is int. And then we are going to specify how many values you want to store. Yes, so this is initialization of array. Means memory is allocated for the array. Are you getting this point? Here, the memory is allocated for this particular array. So 5 consecutive memory locations will be allocated, right? So whenever we are using array, sequential memory utilization. Array requires sequential memory. So whenever I'm saying that, yes, I have initialized an array of type int of length 5. So 5 consecutive memory locations will be allocated to this score. So how it is done? Let me just show you. So this is your memory, right? Then here is a reference, which is scores, right? Now 5 consecutive memory locations are required. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these memory locations will be, this is scores of 0, indexed implementation. This is scores of 1. So index always starts with 0 and ends with length -1. So what 5 we have specified, I have mentioned that yes, there will be 5 elements that will be stored. Okay, so this is what we have over here. Is this clear? And this particular entire location will be referred by this scores. Yes, and each of this memory currently being int as a data member, each of this is going to have the value as 0 because the default value of int is 0. So in this particular step, whatever this statement is executed, this part is done. An array is created in the memory and 5 consecutive memory locations are allocated to this. Is this clear, everyone?
Ma'am,
Hmm?
ma'am, in Java, to define an array, it is compulsory that we must know the size of the array.
Yes.
But sometimes questions come that we don't know the size. But like I can give the example. Ma'am, it's saying that you can put the value into an array until and unless and negative number comes. But in that case, we don't know the size. So how can we define that array? And yes, ma'am, this is.
Until the negative number comes. So what is the condition you are evaluating over here? How you are going to get that negative value? What is the source of the value for that?
The user input.
Sir,
User input.
ma'am, we implement using array
Yes,
list.
ma'am, user input.
Automatically grow.
So that will be collection. That will not be
Yeah,
an
yeah,
array.
ma'am.
But if it is an array, you must know how many values will be entered by the user, even if it is user defined.
Yeah, ma'am.
So
For
first you
array,
need to ask the user that how many values you want to enter, and in those that much length
ma'am.
array will be created. Otherwise,
Okay, yes,
array
ma'am, that I
will
know,
not be
ma'am. Okay, so in this condition, we have to use the array list.
Yes, that
collection,
will be a collection part. That will not be
okay,
done.
okay. Okay, ma'am.
Because arrays are static. You should know the size of the array because this is how the array is created. Right? So whenever
Yes.
you don't know what is the size of an array, you cannot create it. So for any dynamic creation, what we need to do is we need to make use of collection. We cannot go with array in that particular case. Because arrays are static. Very important point. So arrays are static. This is very much important. Okay. Now what you can do, you can access each of the index. So 0 is equal to, say for example, 80. Scores of 1. And scores of 4. So index always starts with 0 and ends with length minus 1. So this is how you are going to create an array. Is the theoretical understanding clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All time chosen, I can find all I just know one of the statues on the tombs, maybe in
Bro,
the
unmute, bro.
Ma'am, seriously, sorry, ma'am.
Not paying an attention, huh?
Ma'am, I'm simplifying the problem. I mean, I'm writing on my own of your notes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I was
Everything
thinking
is getting
consecutively.
recorded.
Sorry, ma'am. I thought the ID is muted.
Okay. Fine. So let's create an array and then we will see how we are going to perform various operations related to array. So int scores. Now, many times you must have or you might come across this particular declaration of array. This is C type of array declaration. What is followed in Java is data type, square bracket, name of the array. So this is declaration of the array. Scores is equal to new int, square bracket, whatever number of elements you want to store.
Ma'am, I had a question.
Main method. I forgot main method. Huh?
Ma'am, is it necessary to write the brackets after int?
Not necessary. That is according to coding standard that are followed in Java programming language.
Okay, ma'am. So can we write it after scores, ma'am?
Yes, you can write, but you should not.
Okay.
Like बुलाती है मगर जाने का नहीं.
Okay.
Nice. सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर मस्त है मैम आपका.
पड़ता है, सीखना है. Means whenever you want to learn, it should be fun. It should not be like compulsory. पढ़ो पढ़ो पढ़ो. Then only you will remember. Then only you will remember. हाँ?
बहुत ज़्यादा interactive है मैम.
Now that's like get or what adaptive to current situation, isn't it? If this would have been a classroom session, the mode of training, interactivity, we are in front of each other, so that feel is different. I'm trying to get it over here. We are connected virtually, and that's why. Okay.
Ma'am, shouldn't the size of scores be declared initially?
We have no here.
Okay, okay.
Now suppose I'm going to declare one more array. Suppose mark. This is one way of declaration. So first we have declared an array. We have initialized an array, right? Another way is what? Club both the steps, right? So initial declaration at the time of initialization. Now again, this is initialization of array, not the array elements. Array element initialization will be the next step. Okay. Or what you can do is suppose string names equal to tell me some of your names. Okay, I can see over here in the meeting. Abhishek. Spelling mistake. Aditya. Okay, fine. These many names are sufficient. Right? So here what I have done, I have declared an array and also I have initialized. So it specifies that, okay, there is a string array which has got length as 4 and these are the values that are available at names of 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? So these are the three ways of declaring. So here I have declared, here I have initialized, 2 steps, declared and initialized the array, clubbed these 2 steps. Then here I will provide the initialization of the variables. So suppose marks of 0 is 90, then marks of 1 is something like this, marks of 2 is this, right? So now here these 2 steps are clubbed. And then I will have to initialize each data member independently, right? Now, this is all the things together. So declaration, initialization of array as well as initialization of the array elements. Clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
So now how I'm going to iterate over it?
Using loop, ma'am.
For loop.
Correct. Using for loop. Okay. So can you implement? Can you complete this code using for loop and for each loop?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So
Yes,
take
ma'am.
5 minutes and complete the code.
Yes, ma'am. Done.
Okay. So now can you calculate the total of all the scores and find out the average?
Yes, ma'am.
Do that. Let me know once you are done.
Done, ma'am.
Got done.
Ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So everyone understood? So what you must have done. So first is you can make use of for loop. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So here I will write name and system.out.println of I, where I is playing role of this particular index. I don't need this variable to be available over here. Yes, and it will print all the names. Fine. After that, we also have a for each loop. In for loop, what happens? You need to declare one variable which is playing a role of a index over here, right? And this is the condition which you are going to check, because this loop will get executed for those many times till this condition is evaluated to true, and then you are going to increment this particular index variable, right? Now we also have one more loop which is for each loop, right? So here we don't have any condition check, or we don't have any variable which is playing a role of index. So here what happens, names of I means I'm going to provide the index over here, and that data will be available. Here the actual value will be available to me, right? So it is going to give you same output, no doubt about it, but how it works internally is different. Yes. So can anyone tell me when to use which? What are the advantages, disadvantages, limitations of these two? Basically the comparison.
Ma'am, in for loop, we can directly go to any index number, but in for each loop, we cannot do that. We have to go through the
Go one by one.
each and every value.
Iterate all
Correct.
the values, ma'am, but in for
It directly
loop,
points.
change the
it-
condition +2 for skipping 2 steps. And it's
Correct.
work on similar type data type, but for each loop, you cannot.
It doesn't get
iterate
the index value. It doesn't get the index value. It directly gets the value.
all the places. You don't use all the places where for each loop. It's work on similar data type only.
For loop
You
will
can
also work
manipulate
on
the data.
similar data type. No, so
Yeah,
similar data
but-
type is not the concern of for loop. Similar data type is the concern of array, isn't it?
Yeah. In collections, ma'am, sometimes we cannot iterate.
So it
on
is
data.
indexed or non-indexed collection. You need to
Yeah,
mention. So
Ma'am,
see,
and we can
what-
modify the data. We can modify the data. Directly.
modify the data where we can
We need to
modify
know the
the-
index value. We can modify the data. That's what. We can modify the data by using this. Like we don't know the index value, no?
Okay. So let's understand what is there. I mean, I will just reiterate on what you have mentioned. So yes, definitely what you mentioned is correct. I guess all of the points you mentioned were correct. So no doubt about it. So what is done with the for loop, right? So first of all, whenever we are using for loop, the first loop, this is traditional for loop, which we are using right from C++, C++, all the programming language, and it is available in all the programming languages. So this is nothing new. So first of all, this for loop is used to iterate over any indexed implementation, because as you can see that the variable which we have declared over here, it plays the role of an index, right? That means whenever we have any non-indexed implementation, we cannot make use of this for loop. This is first thing. And this for each loop can be used for indexed as well as non-indexed implementation. Now, what is non-indexed implementation? Where is non-indexed implementation? Obviously, right now we don't have any non-indexed implementation in case of arrays, because arrays are always indexed implementations, right? Whenever we'll go and work with the collection, collections have indexed as well as non-indexed implementations. So there also we are going to discuss again. We will revisit this particular for each loop over there as well. Okay, fine. Now, whenever we are using this for loop, so let's understand from the syntax perspective. So from syntax perspective, what do we have over here is, first of all, I need to declare one variable which is playing a role of the index, right? So that I variable, I will have to declare that particular variable explicitly. Once that variable is declared, definitely it will play a role of that particular index. Here, I need to check the condition explicitly. Yes. So whenever I am declaring this particular for loop or using this for loop, I need to declare this variable which is playing a role of index. Then I will have to check this particular condition explicitly. This is one more thing what we have. Now, after that, this increment also should happen explicitly. So again, it is giving me extra efforts to do. So I will have to do everything on my own. This is what we have over here, right? In case of for loop. Now, in case of for each loop, what I have, I don't need any variable that is playing role of the index. I don't need to explicitly compare the condition for the length, right? And whatever I'm getting is exact value, the actual value, which is going to have the data available. So I don't need any conversion. I mean, I don't need to declare any local variable which will hold that data. Easy. Fine. So this is from the syntax perspective, I would say. Specifying the syntax is very easy. Now, when it comes about utilization, so as this I variable plays the role of index, we can work only with the indexed implementation. We discussed about it, right? Now, after this, what we have, this for loop can be used for indexed as well as non-indexed implementation. Okay, this is what we have over here. So it can be used for indexed as well as non-indexed implementation. This is from the view, or this is from the perspective of usage. Fine. Now, whenever we are using this particular for loop, and as we are able to reach out to every element using an index, so initialization of that variable or retrieval of that variable value, both are possible. Initialization and retrieval, both operations are possible. However, whenever we are using this for loop or for each loop, as we are not able to reach out to every element individually, independently, initialization is not possible. So this for each loop cannot be used for initialization of any data member. Is this understood, everyone? You cannot initialize. So for each loop will be used only for the iteration and not initialization. Clear or no?
Yes.
Okay. Then after that, what we have? Again, whenever I'm iterating, yes. So here I can specify from where I want to start the iteration, whether it should be from the beginning of the array or in between. I can specify that. Here I cannot specify what will be the starting point of iteration, because by default it will start the iteration from the first element of the array. We don't have any flexibility over here from where I want to start the iteration. That flexibility is not available in for each loop. Now suppose I want to start the iteration in reverse order. So if I want to start the iteration in reverse order, that is again possible with this traditional or conventional for loop, because here I'm going to specify the starting index from where iteration will begin, and I can, as I am able to provide the increment, I can also provide the decrement over here. So decrement is also possible here. Here I have used I++, I can make use of I minus minus. We can have that. So iteration in any direction, either the forward direction or backward direction, that is possible in for loop. It is again not possible in for each loop, because for each loop is mainly for iterating over an indexed or non-indexed implementation, where iteration begins with the very first value and it will iterate in a one direction only as first value to last value. So in between iteration or in between fetching of the data or reverse order, that nothing is possible with the for each loop. This is what we have over here. So any queries?
Ma'am, can you please explain the for each loop once again?
So for each loop is going to hold the actual value while iterating. Okay, it is going to hold the actual value. This particular variable, which you can see over here, it is going to hold the actual value. So it is possible to iterate over indexed and non-indexed implementation. This name variable or whatever variable you have, it is going to hold the actual value. The iteration will begin with the first element till the last element by default. You cannot have any modification done over here. Means you cannot have the iteration started in between or in reverse order. That nothing is possible in case of for each loop. Understood now?
Yes.
Yes, it is only in the forward direction. First value to last value. That's it.
Okay.
So this is for loop and for each. Okay. Fine. Any other query? Or no, we are good. Now, can you try two-dimensional array on your own quickly? Take 10 minutes and create a two-dimensional array and try to print each value. Two-dimensional array where the data will be stored in row column representation. Yes. So the first row will itself hold the array. So try it out, everyone.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, done.
Done? Okay. Any query?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, just a moment.
Ma'am, how shall we create an array of objects, ma'am?
Yeah, we will see.
Okay.
Okay, so this is about the array which we have created, right? Now, currently we have this person class. So this one person class is able to store information about one person. Suppose I have multiple objects of person type, right? So for that, we are going to use person array demo. So in that case, what you are going to do is you are going to create an array of type person in this way, equal to new person. And here you are going to specify how many person information you want to store. Got it, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So what we have got over here, like say for example, person 1, say P1, P2, P3. 3 references we have created over here. Yes. So when we are creating these references, so what do we have in these references? These are null references. They don't contain any data. The value which is there or the value which they are pointing is null. Then we go ahead and initialize each of these reference in this way. So first the object will be created, and then we are going to assign the values over here. This is a normal practice, how we make use of, or how we are going to declare the objects. Do you agree, everyone, or no?
Yes.
Yes. So here what we are going to have is, here also we are going to get 3 references as persons of 0. 3 references will be there. Each of this is going to have a value which is null by default. So this is persons of 0, persons of 1, and persons of 2. So each of this is equivalent to P1, P2, and P3. These are 3 null references. These are also 3 null references. However, these are independent references which you need to initialize independently, which you need to access independently. Okay. However, what we have in this particular persons array is, though we have three different reference data members, they are under one umbrella. So handling of these reference data members really becomes very easy. Is this clear, everyone, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So then,
Ma'am,
these
please repeat
people-
once more time.
So see, whenever I'm declaring these three variables of type person, I'm getting three different individual references, right? So I will handle these references individually. However, whenever we are making use of the reference data members within this particular array, they are under one umbrella. So initialization, retrieval, that really becomes easy for us because it is done through the array. And we know how we can handle the array. Handling the array will be same. Yes. So the next step over here is each of this reference. What we are doing with this P1, P1 is equal to new person. So here also we will have to initialize each of this as an individual object. Otherwise, it is just a null reference. Whenever you have null reference and if you are trying to access the variable using that null reference or invoking any method using that null reference, you get null pointer exception. We don't want null pointer exception. What we want over here is the initialization has to be done. So this is how we are going to initialize these data members. Now again, this is individual initialization, isn't it? So what we can do, I can iterate over this persons array. Yes, then I can write person of I equal to person and I can initialize it. Persons. Got it? So this will be within a loop. So suppose you are getting input from the user. Yes. So that value you can pass over here to the setter method. Is this clear, everyone, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how we are going to initialize this? Now currently, that will be same value for all the objects. So I'm going to show it to you over here. So whenever we are creating these objects, persons of 0 dot, the object is created, so we can invoke this setter method. Persons of 0 dot set age, right? And this will be repeated for all these three. Here, initialization of array is done here. Now I'm initializing each of the object independently. Got it, everyone? So unless you have created the object, you cannot do that. So this is 1, 2, 2. Something like this. Yes. Now what we can do? We can simply iterate over this and we can print the value. Now we have got the array initialized with the objects of person. So whenever you are creating this array, it is called as a reference array because it gives you multiple references. Object we will have to provide. It is called as a reference array, not the object array. Because array will never create an object for you. It will create an array where you are getting multiple references under one umbrella, and those references will be initialized with the corresponding objects by us. Is this clear, everyone, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So now for iteration, what I can have? System dot out. Do we have any method? We have getters only. Fine. So system dot out dot println. So this is name of a person. So persons of I dot get name. System dot println age. Persons of I. Why I? Because I want to invoke every element, every object. So just check this out, everyone. Print this or execute this particular code. Are you implementing the code along with me, guys, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So any queries in here?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Fine. So now can you create an array of type employee? Create another class employee array demo and create array of type employee. Will you be able to do that? Where you are supposed to make use of this constructor to initialize the data members, and you are supposed to invoke this particular method to print every employee information. Please do.
Can you please repeat the question once again?
Like we have created person array over here. You are supposed to create employee array. Create every object of employee using this constructor because we don't have setters and getters. And then on every object, you need to invoke this display employee info in the array. So create a class which is holding employee array.
Ma'am, done.
Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 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 So now whenever we are creating any method or whenever we are defining any method which works with an array, right? So I'm creating a class, say test class, where I have a method, say public void print data, right? And this particular method, what it does is this method is going to accept an array of type, suppose int for time being. Yes. And in this particular method, I'm going to work using either for loop or for each loop. And I'm just going to print this particular value. Right now, I'm just printing this particular value. Now from main method, I'm going to invoke this method. So for that, I will have to create the object of it, because main method is the static context and print data method is non-static. A static method cannot access non-static data directly, because this print data method is non-static method. It is also termed as a instance method, right? And as this is an instance method, it must be accessed using instance of that particular class. So for accessing this method, we must invoke, or we must create instance of that particular class and then test dot print data. But when I need to invoke this print data method, I should have one array which is holding the values, right? So one thing what I can do is, suppose int ar1 equal to, suppose I have these many values, some values I have. Right? Then I'm going to send this particular int array1. So it will work as expected. Yes, it is going to show me these values are available. Fine, whatever values I have passed to it. Or I will just print one separator, because I'm going to call this method multiple times. Now, right now I have these many values. I have created the array. I have passed that array as a parameter. Now, suppose I have another set of values where again I will have to create an array with that specific number of parameters, right? Because now the values which are there in an array are different, right? So now whenever I'm executing it, it is displaying these two values. Now suppose again what I have less number of values or different number of values. So again, I will have to create that particular array and send it as a parameter. Do you agree, everyone? So every time creation of this particular array is a mandatory task? Yes or no?
Ma'am, is this anonymous array? Or-
Anonymous नहीं, anonymous कहाँ से? We have created the array over here. No, why anonymous? There is no concept as anonymous array. Anonymous array means there is no name given to an array. Or you are talking about the solution.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Solution. Okay. So when you instead of anonymous array, you can call it as variable length argument. Yes. So that is a terminology which is used in Java. Okay, we don't call it as an anonymous array, we call it as variable length argument. So when you are not sure about how many values you are going to pass, because you don't have that particular fixed number of values available, right? And every time you will have to create the array. So this is required that every time you need to create an array and then pass it as a parameter to the method. So what we can do instead is we can make use of varargs or variable length argument. So in variable length argument, what you have that when you don't know how many values are there in a particular array, so you don't need to create an array explicitly. You can directly pass the number of values as a comma separated values over there. So it saves on to creation of the array, which is done explicitly in case of arrays are being created and passed in this way. So variable length argument is used mainly for whenever you need to pass multiple values of same data type to a particular function. So instead of creating an array of that particular data type explicitly, you can pass the values directly. Okay. And for that, what changes you need to do over here is this particular square bracket will be replaced with 3 dots. This is the representation of variable length argument. And then you don't need to create this particular array. Instead, you can pass these values directly to the method. So whatever number of values you have, you don't need to create that array. And this is applicable for reference arrays as well. So whatever number of values, obviously same data type, huh? Because we are talking about arrays only, and arrays can hold only same data type. So now, if you will look at the code, 3 statements we have removed where we had created an array. So no explicit array creation is required. We can directly pass the values. Now internally, definitely it is an array only, which is being referenced, or internally it is treated as an array only. However, in implementation or in method invocation, we don't need to create that array specifically. Is this clear to everyone or no?
What happens when they have another variable in the method, ma'am? Like when we have to accept another variable in the method, and one is array and another one is simple int. What will happen then, ma'am?
Okay, so in that case, what you need to do is you can have combination of arrays or with different data members as well, right? So suppose I have a string name over here. So suppose I have name of the person and certain marks, right? So we can pass this . Okay, And here we will also print the name. Okay. So now whenever I'm executing it, you can see that every time it is going to print. Okay, I don't want to print.
If the
over here.
parameter is given as another int, like different int, like
I will
number
tell you. I'll tell you what to do in that case. We will look at it. Don't worry. So currently what will happen? Currently that string is there. It is printed once and this is the part of it. Now suppose you have some different variable. So here I have int num, right? Which is also passed over here. So here it is not going to differentiate. It means whatever second variable you have, that variable will be considered as num, which will be printed only once over here. Now how to wait. So this is the name. This is num and remaining is your whereas content. Can you see this? So the first element of this will be considered. So whatever value you have specified, suppose 10, 12, 17, like this. So the next value will be your num variable and rest will be part of your variable length argument. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, after that, there are certain points which you need to remember. First thing is variable length argument. Definitely it can be used with other parameters as a parameter list or whatever number of parameters you are passing to a method. But one thing you need to remember over here is in those parameters, you can have one and only one variable length argument. There cannot be multiple variable length argument because what it is doing, it is picking the first parameter over here, second parameter over here, and remaining whatever parameters you have, it is putting it inside this variable length argument, which has to be of type int. This is one thing you need to remember and you need to follow. These are certain standards which are supposed to be followed. Now, if I don't have this, if I don't have that, if I have a float after that, you cannot accommodate it over here. After you have declared one variable, if whatever is of type variable length, right? After that, you cannot specify any variable. This is not allowed. Or if I have multiple variable length arguments, this is also not allowed. Got it? So what rules you need to follow basically? First thing is you will have one and only one variable length argument, and it must be the last argument in the parameter list. You cannot have any variable length argument in between. It will not keep on sorting out which is variable length and this and that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So any other query? Hello, any query?
No,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
No, ma'am.
ma'am, is the triple dots after the end convention to write like the square brackets?
Where is the square bracket? We don't write square bracket.
Ma'am, like
Okay,
for
you
the
mean instead of this, if you add it over here, it is not allowed. The syntax is it must be written here.
okay, just after the data type, right?
Yes, yes. There is no flexibility that what if I will write it after the variable name. No.
Okay, ma'am.
Clear? Okay. Now what you are supposed to do? You already have employee data. Yes. Now here, what I want, public void print employees and here employee you already have. Just try if it works as expected. Complete this particular code and invoke this method. Will you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
can you repeat the question?
Implement this method. Employee class you already have. Yes. Implement this particular method to print the employees.
Okay, okay.
Ma'am, in place of variable parameter, can we give it as an array, ma'am?
Where?
Means you have taken employee as a variable parameter, right, ma'am?
This one.
Yes, ma'am.
This is type na. It has to be employee.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Can we pass like employee array, or should we pass it as a single?
Array we have seen now how to make arrays. Why we are learning about this can be an array, but then what is the limitation of creating an array or specifying an array? Array has to be created explicitly.
Yes, ma'am.
Whereas variable length is giving you an advantage that you don't need to create array. You can directly pass the values. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can replace this with an array as well, but array creation.
No, ma'am.
has
I'm
to
not
be done.
talking replacing it, ma'am. While invoking the employee method, can we directly give an array as the input for that employee method, ma'am? Because we have taken as it has variable length, ma'am.
You can pass.
Yes, ma'am. That
Because internally it is an array only.
yes, ma'am.
But then
So,
why to
ma'am-
go for array passing? That means it will be considered as one variable. So don't go for it. Pass multiple objects only. That is the most appropriate approach. Otherwise, you will have to pass multiple arrays. It will consider that you are passing one array as one parameter. Don't go for it.
Yes, ma'am.
What we call, ma'am, 3 dots?
Ellipsis. Ellipsis.
Okay, ma'am.